7:12 now at Newstalk 96.5. KPEL is Winging It Wednesday with Warren Cottle and Stafford Barnett. We got a little bit of consumer comment / complaint on you yesterday, Stafford.
On me?
Stacy, you're on.
He really ruffles my panties whenever he talks to Carol.
Well, we won't tell his wife. Gosh.
And he, I don't mean in a good way. I mean, I get fired up. I'm talking about the red behind. I'm going to work and I'm already in a bad mood.
Your ears are all turning red and your nose all red.
And I can't get through because your phone line is busy, so I can't tell them what I'm really thinking.
All right, so there you go, Stafford. We're going to have a meeting after this and discuss your contract.
Listen, I got to be honest with you. There were so many innuendos in there. I don't know what joke to make. Is she getting spanked before the show? Is it? I don't know. She needs. Anyway. I hope you have a good day. What's her name?
It's Stacy. And you know what,
Stacy, this show is dedicated today from me to you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The yellow bus.
Beautiful.
What a shout out.
Yes.
Sending this one out to Jamie in Chicago.
Invite Stacy out for a beer, Stafford.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think she drinks beer. She sounds more like a whiskey girl.
No, she says actually she's sober now.
Oh.
So you might want to take her for snowballs.
That sounds wrong the way you said
No,
that.
but that's what she said.
That sounds so wrong.
Okay,
Come on.
I don't think that's the way she said that.
Maybe
Stacey, call and defend
Maybe
yourself.
she meant like I'm sober right now.
Yes. Anyway,
the phone lines are open, Stacy. Start down.
We'll take your phone calls, of course, 232-1542, Mr. Cottle. Oh, by the way, Carol's not here. We submitted her name to the league. She's on injured reserve this week.
Yeah.
She'll be back on her show this afternoon.
Today, right?
Yeah.
Because people can't take any more from 2 to 4. So, she'll be back. It's going to be all right.
People said, Rob and Bernie, we're enjoying this, but bring Carol back.
They're like, please go home.
They want not Hitler Rob on from 2 to 4, CNN Rob from 2 to 4.
They don't want CNN Rob.
Yeah.
But I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
Y'all wanted some alcohol the other day, and I was trying to call in to find out what you wanted. I was going to bring it over, but I couldn't get
why
through.
didn't you call me?
Well, you didn't answer your phone.
Straight up vodka. That's
just
all
knock
I
on the
need.
window next time. All you got to do is knock on the window.
Yeah, all you have to do is bang on the window. Anyway, all right, lots of news going on that we are going to get to. The biggest one still making waves, people still sharing all over the place. The announcement yesterday by State Attorney General Jeff Landry that there will not be state charges against the two officers who shot Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge. We knew the DOJ had already made that determination, so a lot of people, their thought was, why did you expect anything was going to be different, especially looking in this way? However, they might go the way of a civil suit. Warren, we'll kick this off with you. What do you make of it? Do you think it was right? What do you think about the civil suit chances?
I listened to part of what Attorney General Landry had to say yesterday. This is following on the heels of the federal investigation, and federal investigations usually, if anything, I think side more with the victim than they do anything else. And what General Landry said was that everything was done in accordance with the Louisiana law, which don't know exactly how much weight to give to that. But I do know that there are a lot of people who are entirely upset with this thing on both sides. But look, the bottom line is that when you're in possession of a firearm illegally, concealed, and the police are trying to get you to act in a certain way, the best thing to do is just go ahead and apply what their commands. I think it was Chris Rock who had a good video on how to handle those situations, and and that I think that more and more people need to just pay attention to what he said, go back and replay that, and do it. There was one on that somebody sent out the other day where there was a guy, I think he was shot like 17 times, and they kept telling him, to on your knees, on your knees, on your knees, and he kept just roaming around, and they said, well, we're going to tase you, blah, 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 and then there at the end, he reached under his shirt and whips out a pistol. And when he did, then the cap started popping. And he went down, I think, I counted like 17 shots. Now, my point is, if you were one of the police and that happens, when you got that split second, when something's coming out of that shirt, out of those pants or whatever, you've got just a split second to try to, is it a cell phone or is it a weapon? And even if it doesn't come out, if they're reaching for it or whatever, after you're sitting there trying to do everything you can to get them to comply, then I think it's probably pretty well summed up and said, what they did was in accordance with the rules and the law and whatever. And I mean, it's a tough situation.
So Stafford, obviously, the experts used in this one were use of force people. Mm-hmm. That is what they were looking at. They weren't looking at department policies, which could end up, we know the Baton Rouge police chief is looking into policies. We should know by Friday if there were any policies that were broken, which could be a totally different thing. But we have attorneys for one of the officers saying they fully expect this officer, one of them, Salamone, is the lawyer who spoke out and said they fully anticipate he's going to be fired. So, obviously, on the heels of the state investigation, where there's nothing, you're looking ahead to what might happen disciplinarily.
Right. So, first off, let me say the fact that Alton Sterling died for selling CDs or whatever he was doing is an absolute travesty. That being said, the officers technically obeyed the law, and that law was set by the Supreme Court in Tennessee versus Gardner, which basically said that if at any point in time an officer felt that his life was in danger, he had the right to use deadly force. And it's really, really hard to prove in court what somebody is feeling at a certain time, right? That being said, it's the policy deal, and the reason he's going to be fired is because there shouldn't have been an escalation of force when it came to somebody illegally selling CDs in front of whether the guy was high or not or whatever, right? Tell the guy to go away and stop selling CDs. It's real tough when you get into a tussle with somebody, right? If the guy yells back and that kind of stuff, it got escalated very quickly. Again, I just don't see the point of a police officer even confronting somebody. It's like the guy who died in New York who got confronted for selling individual cigarettes, right?
So this guy, in addition to the CDs, though, the reason the police were even there was because he pulled the gun on someone else.
Did he?
That's why the police were called to start with.
Okay.
Because he pulled a gun on someone, that person left the gas station and said, hey, there's a guy.
Right.
And then we didn't learn he had been selling the CDs forever. So that wasn't the thing. They were going there because he threatened someone with a gun. So
right.
That's why they knew that he had a gun.
See, I didn't even know that part of it. And that certainly changes his story as well.
The year before, too.
Did it really?
A similar, almost.
It's tough, and I've said it before in the show. I think that being a police officer is probably one of the toughest jobs there is in the world, and it's because of situations like this. There are times where you run into people for pulling them over, and all of a sudden they pull a gun on you. There are also times, and I think Warren pointed out some. We've also had instances of guys who've had legal concealed carry license who've been shot. With their mother and child next to him in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a tough situation. I feel for his family. They're going to get some money out of this, and I hope the officers and the family find a way to sleep with themselves at night.
Warren, what do you make of the policy side? The police department actually going back. We do know about the taser not working, which obviously that would be your non-lethal force. You try first to get someone down, and then in the autopsy report that was released yesterday, we saw the number of drugs in his system, which might be the explanation for why the taser didn't work.
Well, you say taser didn't work. Was that a mechanical failure, or was it because that the jolt to him didn't work?
Well, I mean, he was a big guy, first of all.
Right.
So I don't know.
Don't hate on big guys.
I am one, not hating on them.
Tasers hurt.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'll give you the copy. I'd already put it in the trash, but you can read the copy. I did print out a copy of the report.
Well, I don't need to read that, but look, the bottom line is it gets back to where, do you believe that your life is threatened? And and that is such a subjective thing, and that at what point do you think that, and how do you react? And I do agree with this too, is that somebody had said that if police was more traumatized in training, such as the guy who put that on there was showing a clip from the movie Full Metal Jacket, and said if police went through that kind of training in their police training, then maybe they wouldn't freak out as much when somebody yells at them or gets in their face with. Look, we're all humans. We're going to react different ways, and that it is a sad situation all the way around.
Okay, quickly, Stafford, then we're going to go to the phones.
Yeah, two things I'd like to point out. There's a sheriff in Florida who only hires Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, and because they've been in situations of escalation of force, they have zero shootings and a lot less of these incidents. On a lighter note, if you watched Jeff Landry's press conference yesterday, the knot in his tie was so big, I thought he looked like the Mad Hatter because it made his head look tiny, like a golf ball on like a bowling pin.
We will get to him next. Let's go to the phones at 232-1542. I think we lost line one.
Oh,
but
sorry,
we have
line one.
two.
Here we go.
Ready to go here. Good morning. You're on Wingin' It Wednesday. Go ahead with your thoughts. Go ahead.
Look, people.
What are you having?
Come on now.
All right, we're going to go back to line one. Good morning. You're on Wingin' It Wednesday. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot of good concepts.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes,
go
please
ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of good cops out there, but there's also a lot of bad cops. And the problem is, a lot of these bad cops, either they don't know the Constitution or they don't care. Because, for example, in New Iberia, I had called up the sheriff's department, and I had asked them about the open carry laws. And they said, yeah, you can open carry, but if you do open carry, we can go ahead and check your ID. And so I looked up the law, and it says that the only way that they can check the ID is if there's suspicion of a crime having taken place. And so I called back, and the representative went ahead and said, you know what? I'm not going to argue with you. I told you what, the deal is, and that's the way it's going to be. And then he hung up on me. So, do they really care about the laws or not? Or are they just bullies?
I think by and large they care about the laws, but there are a lot of different laws, especially in the situation you're talking about with open carry. But I think your point is taken.
Thank you.
Is it the same New Iberia where the sheriff had officers drag an inmate into the chapel and beat him with an inch of his life?
And all no charges filed. So I guess we'll
charges filed, charges dropped.
Yeah, charges dropped. Yes. Right.
That was against the sheriff. That was not against the prisoners who did the beating.
Oh, the prisoners did the beating. I thought. Okay, again, sad situation.
Charges dropped.
Oh, no, deputies did the beating. I'm sorry. Yeah, and they pled guilty and got sentenced.
Let's take a couple more quick calls right now. 232-1542. Go ahead with your comments.
Yes. Good morning. I absolutely love y'all's show.
Thank you.
The common theme in all of these negative interactions with the police officers is a loss of control. And the only person in Alton Sterling situation, for instance, or the Rodney King situation, for instance, who had complete control of the situation and its outcome was the victim. Had they complied, the officers don't have to do what they did. But I promise you, and I have a lot of police officer friends, if they fear for their life and it comes down to them going home to see their families or the perpetrator going home seeing their families, I guarantee you the police officer is going home to see his family. And that's the way it should be. The lack of respect for the police officers today is unbelievable. When we were kids, and I'm old as a lot of y'all, when they told you to do something, it was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. End of conversation. It needs to be like that. Sorry he's gone, but that's one less thug that the world has to worry about. Have a great day.
We'll go to the next call.
Let's take one call to wrap up this segment, 232-1542. Then we will move on. Go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, like with people, with police officers and everything, I was in the National Guard. I did hurricane duty, everything. And for hurricane duty, we had a situation with somebody in the area complying at first, and all of a sudden it turned in a split second. I had drugs, resisting arrest, everything. And this was around the time whenever they had the shooting in Laplace with 2 officers killed the week before the hurricane. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
All right,
and
thanks for your comment.
Officers look at it.
We do appreciate it. 726 here at Newstalk 96.5 KPEL. Wingin' It Wednesday rolls on next. Stafford Barnett and Warren Cottle in studio with us. We move on to the next topic. Coming up on Wingin' It Wednesday. 731 at Newstalk 96.5 KPEL. Welcome back to Acadiana's Morning News. Big happenings over in Baton Rouge as the Louisiana Senate votes down proposed minimum wage hikes. The question, do we need to rethink minimum wage now that more and more people don't view the jobs as entry level? And I think we probably all know someone in our lives who stay in a minimum wage job for the length of their career. Stafford, we're going to start with this one, and we're also going to talk about equal pay, another topic of legislation that also failed in the legislature, both pretty expected.
I believe that we should raise the minimum wage, and I think it should be. I think the easiest way to do it is to look at it as a percentage of the value of the economic market basket. That way, it's based on it handles inflation, right? There are some economists that would say that if you did that, there's potential for rapid inflation to occur. Potentially, I don't think that it would. But when you think about, is it what, $7.50 an hour right now? That's $15,000 a year. So you're seeing $7,000 of that a year. So $500 a month, $525, somewhere around there. I don't know what that gets you. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think that gets you a car. I don't think, and that's 40 hours a week, right? And when you look at the companies, and if you want to, in my opinion, a conservative perspective on this, when you look at the companies that are paying the largest numbers of people minimum wage, McDonald's, Walmart, when you look at their percentage of workforce that's on welfare or government assistance, that means that our tax money is supplementing the payrolls of Walmart and McDonald's. And the only way to stop that is to force Walmart and McDonald's to pay a living wage. Because I can tell you, the people who own Walmart, they're richer than rich. Okay, and I hesitate saying this. They don't need the money as much as they need to be good stewards to society, and it's the same thing with Walmart. Walmart is bad for a community in that it does bad things to mom and pops, but it also is a terrible return on investment for land. When you look at your tax percentage that you're getting back per acre with Walmart, it's abysmal. It's abysmal. It's why you see new Walmarts put Radio Shacks and hair salons and all this kind of stuff in their parking lot, because they got the point about 10 years ago that their tax revenue per acre was absolutely terrible. So I encourage you, if you're listening to me, stop spending your money with McDonald's and Walmart because your tax money's going to them. You already give them enough already. Don't give them any more.
So many mom and pops here in Acadiana, too, who would love your business as well. Warren, your thoughts on all this?
I didn't know that Walmart even paid minimum wage. I know that here, I think their starting salary is like $11 an hour or $10 an hour or whatever. I think it's $10 an hour or more. And I don't, there's good things and bad things about Walmart and about all of these big companies. And how much money are the owners of Walmart, the founders of it, the founding family, how much are they allowed to have? That's a big deal. If you start a company and you've got like 10 people working for you, what is a fair return for you to get? If you're paying them $15 an hour, should you be able to get $1 an hour in profit from those people who are working there? And so, you may say, well, yeah, you get $5 an hour. You're really taking their labor and selling it for 25 and blah, blah, blah. So, how much of that should the owners be allowed to have? So then you start multiplying that as that business grows. And so now you've got 100,000 employees working for you. Are you allowed to take 10 cents an hour from them? If you're paying them on an average of $9, $10 an hour, is 10 cents an hour, is that unfair for you to get? And so 10 cents times 100,000 is about $10,000 an hour that you'll be allowed to have, which is like $24,000. Now, some of them, I guarantee you, or, their return is tremendously more than that. And that, on the other hand, you talk about what Walmart does to mom and pops and these kind of things, but what Walmart also did to these communities is that they brought goods to you at a hell of a lot lower price than what you were paying. So people are able to afford to have more things that they actually need. That's the other side of that argument. I mean, there's two sides of the thing all the way down through there. Is Walmart good for community or is it bad for community, I don't know, but that let's say this, that the return you're talking about on their tax revenue base and every bit of that is controlled by the local government. And so if a local government wants to say, you come in here and build a Walmart, you build it, we won't even charge you taxes because you're going to bring something to here. And that's who is really ultimately responsible. But here's the big deal about Walmart, don't shop at Walmart and all that, is that the consuming public, the consumers, are telling these businesses, we're going to come in and shop in your store if we can get this item at the cheapest price possible, and if you don't have it, by God, we're going down the street. So then they turn around and start putting pressure on everybody else. So those truckers, they're telling them, you've got to get that goods from the dock in Houston or whatever, and you've got to get it here faster than anybody else at a lower price than anybody else. And so that's one of the reasons why you wound up having all these trucks on the road that was running with 14 million miles on them or whatever, because it went to the cheapest bid. And that's also why Walmart has put more people, more companies out of business into bankruptcy who went in there and dealt with them, because they made you sign a contract that said you're going to lower your price to them every year. Well, that is so stupid, because sooner or later your damn profit line goes negative at some point in there. I mean, there's so many of these companies that are classic cases where they went, Velocity Pickles was one, Murray Bicycles was another, where they thought that they had hit the euphoria when they got a contract with Walmart, that you had to supply all the pickles they wanted to sell. So what did they do? They started selling gallons of pickles with a 10% or 10-cent profit in them. And so then they told that company, they said, okay, send us 250,000 gallons of pickles by Friday. They said, hell, we can't do it. Or 2 million, whatever it was. They said, well, no, your contract says you've got to do it. So then they went out and started buying pickles from everybody they could at a loss. Then they went into bankruptcy. So anyway.
When I want to say I agree with you, I want to take a step back and say that I agree on it's not anybody's job to dictate what's an acceptable profit. I agree with you. My mom told me growing up, the right to swing your fist stops at my nose, right? And my frustration is that when we look at free market capitalism, which I believe is successful, the times where it gets jeopardized are when we have monopolies. That's why the founding fathers were against monopolies. And one of the things that you're talking about is monopolizing business. When you're the only game in town, you get to dictate what you pay for it. And that's why we see the companies you're referring to going out of business. When they, and sometimes they do pay more than minimum wage. I agree with you. What they've done is they've cut hours, right? And it's why you hear people talk about a living wage as opposed to a minimum wage, where if you're going to cut the hours, fine. If you only make it 22 hours a week, make it so that they can live off that.
Yeah, because a lot of those changes happened when the health care bill happened.
Yeah.
Remember they made the big adjustment with calling someone 30 hours. It was the big,
right.
What was it?
But again, we're paying. I don't spend money with the Waltons. I don't spend money at Walmart. I don't spend money at Sam's. I avoid Sam's at all costs. I can't say I don't spend money because my wife goes there on occasion. But I avoid it because I know that when I pay my taxes at the end of the year, they're taking a piece of it that could have gone to education, that could have gone to roads, that could have gone to things that we need fixed in this state, but instead I'm supplementing the incomes of company who want to siphon off profits over the well-being of the people who get it for them.
All right, Warren, wrap this one up.
Yeah,
quickly.
Stafford brought up a great point when he started talking about monopolies and whatever. And the good thing about capitalism is the only socioeconomic system that will cleanse itself. And monopolies will take care of this. The problem you run into, the reason you wind up with these so-called monopolies is because government gets in there and starts trying to decide that they're going to set the playing field for them, and that then all at once somebody gets a much more an advantage than the other people. And there's nothing more evident than that than what you're talking about, Stafford, about giving these companies all these breaks on taxes, property tax, whatever, and supplementing their a lot of these places we supplement their workforce. And then just like that crazy thing of the TIF tax, when Joey Durrell said, oh no, that we're not going to be liable for it, the bondholders are. And who the hell's the bondholders? That's retirement funds. So you're saying, you know, the Louisiana State Teachers Retirement Fund is going to want to be liable for it. So, yeah, let this guy build this thing for $27 million. And if it goes broke, guess what? We're not liable.
We're going to leave that topic right there. We're going to move on with Wingin' It Wednesday next. Warren Cottle and Stafford Barnett. I almost called you Carol Ross.
Stuart Bennett.
Yeah, Stuart Bennett. And y'all don't have nearly as good of earrings as Carol. I'll tell you that. We're back next.
I don't know. That's what Carol keeps calling me, though.
All right, 7:45 now at News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Hey, we have a call right there. Let's take a call. If you have anything you'd like to say, like to comment, like to criticize, like to compliment, we're open for business. At 232-1542. Go ahead with your comment, caller.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So you made a really good point about Walmart and I'm sorry, I'm echoing.
That's okay.
You're good.
Just keep going.
McDonald's not paying enough, but I think that's really low-hanging fruit. I mean, I used to work for a tax company, and I have a bachelor's in business, and they paid me $9 an hour. So if I didn't have parents and a husband and a lot of support, and if I was desperate, then I could have made a lot more money selling identities if I wanted to.
Do you think that because people traditionally, societally, that just don't outwardly talk about their salary, we only turn to those, the low-hanging fruit, as you called it, because, maybe we would be surprised. I know there are a lot of places when they're trying to get people, they're willing to up the wage to that level where you start getting good applicants and getting good people. And it might be fast food restaurants. I mean, just kind of depends.
Right. Yeah, I do think it's a huge societal problem. And, it's really far-reaching because, like I said, if I was desperate, then it's not that I'm a bad person, but I have a child. So, I mean, you have to do what you have to do. And if you put a lot of people in a really, really desperate situation, you don't pay them enough, they do desperate things.
All right, thanks for the call.
It's a huge problem.
Let's take one more call before we move on to the final topic point.
Yes.
Go ahead.
We just wondering if there's any update on what the law enforcement emergency is right now. There's a lot of swarming law enforcement vehicles from different agencies around I-10, I-49 corridor, and I didn't know if y'all had gotten anything on that.
Other than a traffic report of what's going on, we will look into it, though. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. So retired Justice John Paul Stevens came out with some, and maybe I'm wrong. When I typed out, the email to you guys, I said I kind of thought it was a rare public display of policy opinions. But John Paul Stevens, the retired justice, made a statement in a letter that was published, I believe, in the New York Times about just abolishing the Second Amendment so that actual gun reform could happen in its place. Warren, we'll start with you on this one. Is it unprecedented? I just don't ever remember seeing something like that before. Not to mention it's pretty astounding as someone who defended the Constitution, it seems.
No, I don't think it's unprecedented. The Constitution's there to be amended, and that there's a process involved. You want to do away with it? Well, then start the movement to do away with it. I disagree with that. I disagree with Justice Stevens, although I will say I think, what is he, 97 years old?
97.
I think that speaks a little bit for itself. And, one of the things you see here lately, I'd say lately over the last several years that you've never seen before, is that you see so many of these sitting justices that go out and give speeches that, answer questions or interviewed on television over and over. And, so, the Supreme Court is it's a lot more transparent than it used to be.
I feel like it used to just be once you're there, you don't take pictures in here. Well, you still can't take pictures. You still can't do video. So that's why you see these courtroom sketches.
I don't ever remember, because I haven't paid that much attention to them over the years, but growing up, I never did see any of them out there giving speeches, interviews, and all that stuff. Maybe it's because that the media today, there's a lot more opportunity for them to do it. But, I've seen Clarence Thomas appearing before these law students where he doesn't give a speech. He just goes in and answers questions. He said, I much prefer this than to come up here and tell you what I think. He said, you ask me the questions and then we'll do that. And that was really, really impressive. And, so Stevens can say whatever he wants to. But I want to say this before I go any further, is I am really glad that Stormy Daniels didn't mention my name the other night on 60 Minutes.
Kidding, right?
Well, yeah.
There was some questionable
My brother called me and said
and your brother said it was him.
He was watching it, and he said, I was waiting for her to mention your name being a chief from Baton Rouge, and so...
Stafford,
how do you follow that?
You can jump on any of those points. Any Stormy in your past.
You can jump on Stormy if you want to.
Oh, God. He went there.
Apparently, it's not Stormy likes to be jumped on. She likes to be doing the spanking.
Listen, you don't talk derogatorily about Miss Stephanie, okay?
Did you date her?
No, honey, I never dated her. If you're listening to this.
Wouldn't call it a date.
I can't believe, and I wasn't even the one that went there.
Go ahead, Stafford. What do you want to talk
right there,
about?
buddy?
Poof.
I did
such a tough act to follow.
Well, I did tell. Let me just mention this part since you brought up the storm. Yesterday, I told Bernie during our show that there was something that she hasn't wanted to think about since the mid-'90s as far as this story goes, and I am told it got cut off on the stream. And what the thing is that there is a dress.
Oh yes,
that exists.
Whoa, wait. There's a DVD.
There's a DVD.
There's a DVD.
Yes.
So I never thought that the first Wang pics were going to come from the 72-year-old sitting president. Like, I thought that they were going to be a couple more generations before we got there, right? Like, but of course it's Donald Trump, right? So anyway, I want to get off the story nail this topic. Enough people in this room have been on her, so let me move on to something else.
I have been nowhere near her.
Never been on her. Nope.
So
not my thing. Sorry.
As far as the Justice Stevens, our former Justice Stevens comments about gun control, I think we're at a very different time in this country when it comes to discussing gun control, and we have. I hear the 2A people when they say shall not be infringed. I hear that regularly, and I want to point out that it's already infringed upon. You have to get special licenses to go buy fully automatic weapons, and you can't go buy a Tomahawk missile. So we've said as a society that there are some things that you cannot do. And I don't know where the line is, but I think that if the NRA and the Pro 2A people aren't willing to have some discussion about some things, bump stocks, binary triggers, potentially semi-automatic rifles, if they're not willing to have a discussion about that, then the generation of kids that have practiced live fire drills and who have been shot at and who have seen their friends die will be voting, and they'll be voting soon. They're already starting to vote, right? We're in the first post 9/11 generation. Not the first, but we're close to it. And so I don't know what the answer is. I'm not a big gun control fan, but I struggle with the idea that you can walk in and buy a semi-automatic rifle, whether it's a 223 or a 308 or a 300, and without any experience, you don't know how to take it apart, you don't know how to shoot it, and you don't know the specifications of the weapon. But when you say all that, right, and you mention semi-automatic rifles, you got to realize that there's a 22 semi-automatic out there, right? There's a weapon that shoots a tiny bullet that's not as lethal, and then of course you turn around and say what bullet has killed the most people on the globe, and it's a 22, right? So they've got to be willing to budge a little.
All right, let's go to the phones to wrap up this edition, raucous edition, raunchy edition of Wingin' It Wednesday. 232-1542 is the number, and caller, you're on with us. Go ahead.
You know, I understand everybody's argument. Since the Constitution was laid out all the way to today, they never envisioned rapid fire, rapid ability of a lot of the new high-tech stuff. And they're right. The First Amendment should be suspended till we straighten all this out with Facebook and some of these other mass marketing abilities to hurt us at such a huge level. People are hurt every day by the First Amendment, wrapping themselves in that and getting away with what they do. So he's right. They should suspend the First Amendment until they get this fixed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Wingin' Wednesday brought to you each and every week by Service Chevrolet Cadillac. Guys, what's on the docket for the rest of the week and the weekend? We're in springtime, Warren. Are you putting on your rubber boots and gardening, or what's going on in your world?
No, and I'm not plowing my fields either, so I don't know. I'm just taking it one day at a time. I hope to be here next week and be alive and walking.
Awesome. Stafford?
The big capital V. Vacation.
Oh, okay.
I'm good.
We talked about the 30th anniversary of Viagra yesterday, so I wasn't really sure what was happening.
Yeah, so I won't be here next week.
Okay.
So anybody who wants to tell me I'm dumb or call and complain, next week, 7 to 8 a.m., KPEL 96.5, hammer away.
All right. Stafford Barnett. Warren Cottle. Don't plow anything else either.
Have a good day, Stacy.
7:56 now at News Talk 96.5. KPEL, stay with us. We're back next.